Hello there, this is Oora. Today I want to talk about dub music and how it influenced my production. The manipulation of time and space always interested me as a producer. The creative use of reverb and delays through the sense of a mixing board is the foundational characteristic of my music. That's why I always felt connected to dub music. I love the idea of jamming with prepared stems and transform them with echoes and feedback. Before showing you how to dub, I want to briefly go through the origin of it and how it evolved in the electronic music environment. During the late 1960s, Jamaica was a hotbed of musical creativity, and it was in this fertile environment that King Tubby emerged as a pivotal force. As a sound engineer and producer, Tubby revolutionized reggae by experimenting with echoes, reverb, and other effects. Utilizing his trusty MCI desk and 4-track reel-to-reel tape machine, plus a range of effect unit, Tubby would deconstruct and reconstruct existing recording, giving birth to mesmerizing instrumental versions, known as dub plates. Tubby's sonic exploration set the stage for a new era in Jamaican music, inspiring other notable figures like Lee Scratch Perry, Augustus Pablo, and Scientist to push the boundaries to the genre even further. Their contribution added a new dimension to dub, with heavy bass lines, swirling echoes, and a dynamic use of space becoming hallmarks of the genre. Fast forward to the 1990s, in the bustling city of Berlin, a fusion of Jamaican dub and techno gave rise to a mesmerizing subgenre known as dub techno. At the forefront of this movement was the influential duo Basic Channel, comprising Moritz von Oswald and Mark Ernestus. Drawing from the minimalistic aesthetic of early techno and the spaciousness of dub, Basic Channel crafted a distinct sound that enraptured listeners with its deep bassline, echoing chords, and expansive sonic landscapes. The duo attention to detail extended to the art of mixing and equalization, allowing them to create a sense of depth and space within their production. By skillfully manipulating frequencies, incorporating delay, and employing reverbs, Basic Channel invited the listeners on a sonic journey that transcended the boundaries of traditional techno. Let me now share with you a few other artists that influenced my music production with their dub vibes. Paul, the moniker of German musician Stefan Bethke, introduced a distinct approach to dub techno. His soundscapes were characterized by a raw, gritty aesthetic, achieved through the deliberate use of lo-fi production techniques and the incorporation of static and glitches into his composition. Paul music delved into abstract texture and experimental rhythm, pushing the boundaries of dub techno and creating a unique sonic experience. His album 3 is a great introductory listening. Jan Jelinek, another influential figure in the genre, brought his own distinct perspective to dub techno. Known for his meticulous attention to detail and sound design, Jelinek's compositions were marked by intricate microsampling and rhythmic intricacies. His music often conveyed a sense of meditative beauty, creating a hypnotic atmosphere that blurred the boundaries between organic and electronic elements. Check Loop Finding Jazz Record for a great overview of his production skills. TM404, the alias of a Swedish musician Andreas Tilliander, has been instrumental in the resurgence of hardware-based dub techno production and a huge influence to me. TM404 music embraces the essence of classic dub techno, blending deep pulsating rhythm, rich atmospheric texture, and hypnotic repetition. What sets TM404 apart is their use of analog hardware, specifically the Roland MC202, TB303, TR606, and TR808. By skillfully manipulating this iconic instrument, TM404 creates a fusion of dub aesthetic and techno sensibility, resulting in a distinctive and captivating sound. Let's now dig into some basic technique that you can use in your production. I will go through my studio setup, which revolves around the Zell IM1 desk, and then I will show you how you can recreate similar vibe on a budget. But first, a little performance. So let me go through my studio setup. I am lucky enough to own a beautiful Zell AM1 desk, previously owned by Panpot. These things really change my workflow in the studio, not only because it sounds amazing and it offers some stuff like the CV channel, but also because it has 6 aux send, so I can really experiment with different chain effects, and I have, a lot of real estate to plug my units. So let me go through how it's set up right now. I have an aux1, I have my Space Echo RE201 that I'm mostly using it for the spring reverb. Why don't we listen while we are going? That might be more fun. So, for example, let's listen with this. So this is my percussion, and I can route them through right now the Space Echo, as you can hear. I sometimes also like to send the kick through it. And it's a very distinctive sound. Then I have on 2, I have the Eventide H3000, which has very crazy sounding effects, like this one. On channel 3, I have my CXM 1978, one of my favorite reverb. On channel 4, I have the Eventide Space. And then the juicy stuff. On 5, I have the Chorus Echo AFX3. This one is great to add texture. Let's listen with the... It's beautiful. From here. And then on 6, it's my dub delay of choice, the Benny Dub Echo, here. Let's listen with, again, with the... Here it is. This is the one that I decide to self-feedback. So, what is this technique, which most of you probably know, but when you want to do a dub kind of delay, simply you use something suitable, and I think the Benny Dub is one of the best sounding out there, and then I set up the internal feedback to 0. So basically, I just have a 1 tap delay, and that's it. And then sending it back to a channel, you feedback its sounds back in it. So you create a sort of circle. That's how initially the tape delay was invented, using reel-to-reel machine. So let's listen. 1 tap, and then I feedback to it, into itself. You can start hearing there's more feedback. And you reach to a point, well, this will start to self-oscillate. So my technique is setting up the fader to the top, and then to a point where the sound will start create this feedback, unlimited feedback. Because at that point, you can ride the fader up and down and decide when the feedback goes or not. This is a matter of setting both the feedback, the aux send to itself, and the gain stage at the beginning. So it's something you need to be careful, because you can definitely go overboard, distort, and destroy everything. But after some practicing, it's super fun. And you know that maybe keeping the fader around here, you will just have a regular delay. Let's listen with everything going on. So I can play a little like that and have a regular delay. And when I want, maybe I want to create a transition, I can go like this. As you can hear, it starts distorting, so you need to be careful there. Too much self. And sounds, of course, great, also with percussion. One good way to create transition, it's always feed the delay, then remove it, and then have it keep going. And then you can reintroduce stuff back, as you see in the performance. One important thing is, like, generally these work well when the aux is post-fader, mean that the signal sent to the aux, it's depending on the fader position. For example, right now I have the fader up, so it goes, but this mixer allows me to also have a pre-fader, means that even if this is set to 0, the sounds will go through. It could be useful, for example, for reverb, this kind of dub application. Oh, I didn't talk about the sound source here, which is very important, and also my idea on dubbing and using the mixer. When you play with the mixer, sometimes it's better to have something that works as stems or some sequences that are done and ready, and you don't have to change that. So mainly you can play with the filtering, you can play with the muting, but the sequences are there. So for this demo, I have a 303, which is modulated by the 0 control, so it opens and closes the filter. I have the rhythm, and the kick goes out by itself. It's really important for me to have the kick separate, and then all the other percussion have its own stereo channel. And then I have here the UDO Super 6, and a Super 6, it's actually sequenced by the Oxy, and in the new firmware of Oxy you have a bank of chord, so it's fun because I can play and have all of the chord that I need. Also, It's really important when you play like this to just introduce different spaces. For example, now I'm playing with the reverb. I'm adding some spring right now. I can also feed back the delay into reverb, creating this luscious space. And then I can create transition like that. So the use of that delay, this echo keep going in its own crazy feedback, it's really useful to create transition. Like this. And okay, that's about it. Of course, this is a large scale situation, a collection of instruments that took a lifetime, but you can get something similar with a very budget setup. We will go through that. Finally, the concept that I really like about dubbing is creating this subtle texture and have these sounds going on even in the background. So for me, again, it's playing with space and time. Simple instrument, and we can listen. Just this is the clear sound with nothing going on. But just using a small amount of sound with the use of effects, you can create universes. All right, that said, let's move to the budget setup. I will do a quick introduction performance and then we'll discuss about it. See you there. Okay, let's see how we can recreate a similar setup on a budget. For the sound source, I decided to go with the Octatrack. You can use, of course, any kind of sampler, and the Roland SH01A. The Roland will do sort of baseline, and this one will trigger some sample. So I wanted to keep it simple. You can use any other kind of instrument. I would go maybe with a 303, with a TR8. There's a lot of possible instruments that are super cheap and sounds pretty good. I decided to use this tool because they're fairly cheap and grant you a great quality. When I first started, the Z series from Allen and Heath was my mixer of choice. This one is the Z10. You can go a little further and maybe get the model with the feathers, which of course allows for a better control, especially on the feedback of the delay. But with this one, it's pretty convenient. It has a lot of nice feature. It's very cheap and the sound quality to me is pretty good. It has two sends, one labeled effects, which is post fader, and one is labeled aux, which is aimed to your headphone probably mix, but you can use it of course as a aux send. This is pre-fader, so it will be sent out no matter what is your level stage here. So I'm using 3 pedals. One had to be the Boss edition, new re-edition of the Space Echo RE202, which I used in the other setup. It is a very nice pedal, very well built, and it sounds pretty good. Maybe later on I will do a demo comparing the two. I'm using it for the echo part. It also has a reverb. It's pretty complex to use reverb and delay, especially when you do the feedback, so the reverb is disengaged. And for the reverb I have 2 pedals. One is the classic Electro Harmonix Holy Grail Neo. This is a new version. I used to have the metal one, maybe the case was in metal, ages ago, which is a very cool pedal, very simple, only 1 knob and 3 algorithm. And then the Sky Surfer, which is a very cheap alternative, which offers you the same kind of algorithm, spring, plate and hole, and some more controls, including a wet and dry, which can be pretty useful. So let's see what's happened here. So I have on these 2 stereo track. One is the melodic part of the Octatrack through the Q out, and the other one is the drum. Let's listen to it. So on this stereo one, all the track come and there's 4 drum track. Then I have on M3, Mono 3 and Mono 4 the return. So the aux send and the effects out are here. They go inside my pedal, come back on their own channel. So for example, now I can use the aux knob here to send the drum through the reverb pedal. So this is the classic spring sound that is super nice for this kind of music. You also have hold and plate, which they sound pretty great. So I'm using just the spring now, and we can also turn on this other one, plate, hold, and spring. I have to say that I like more on these the blade and the hole, while I prefer the spring on the hologram. So this is the combination I'm using. Then let's send the drum through, as you can hear, even though the melodic part is down, I had it on aux, which is pre-faded, as I mentioned before. Now let's send to the boss. So there's few things you have to do. in order to use it. First on, when you turn on the RE202, you keep pressing tap, and then you can decide setting these on number 8 if you will kill the dry signal. You have to do that, otherwise with the feedback it's gonna be a problem. Then I set up the reverb to 0, the intensity, which means the feedback, to 0, and then you can tap if you want and then decide a different mode. Set line here instead of guitar because it's the right impedance and gain, and then you can add wow and flutter saturation. That's all about your desire. So what I usually do, I pull the volume and set a time that I like. Something like this. And then same technique as before. I send back the signal to itself, and that will create the feedback. So now let's put the things together. And let's also bring some that. Then there's also the 101. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to dub music and dub techniques. There's a lot to discover still, so I hope I'll see you here again.